Ladies and gents, a very good afternoon to you. Thank you very much for joining us today. A pleasure to have such a diverse group joining us in the audience, from seasoned agency professionals to e-commerce advertisers who are really just keen to learn more. Now, whether you're a seasoned Channable user or not yet familiar with our platform, we are delighted to have you with us today. I'll allow myself to give a little introduction. First off, my name is Thomas Wilson, and I'm here today on behalf of Channable. And I have brought along a special guest and friend of Channable, Paul de Graaf, who serves as head of feed management at Netprofiler. So, Paul, thank you very much for joining us.
Well, thank you for having me.
It's our pleasure. Paul is going to be diving into a really fascinating use case a little later on in the session, and it's, I think, certain to provide us all with some really valuable insights into how Netprofiler is using Channable. Now, today marks the first episode in our new webinar series, the Agency Stories. And here at Channable, we are all about building a community, a place where everyone can come and learn from some of the most forward-thinking digital marketing agencies, digital marketing businesses in the business. And at Channable, we're thrilled to be able to connect and engage with this community, fostering this space for shared learning and for growth within the industry. Now, as I mentioned, this is going to be a webinar series, the Agency Stories. So this is just the first of several webinars to come. And of course, we would like to be able to tailor these webinars to your needs. So I think if the technology works, a poll should be popping up on your screen right about now. And please let us know which areas you are interested in us covering during the webinar series to come. You can provide several answers here, and we will definitely take this into consideration as we move on through our webinar series. So I'll give you just a few seconds to pop your answers in there, and we will dive onwards. So in today's inaugural episode of the Agency Stories series, we're going to be exploring the award-winning Channable use case featuring Netprofiler and New York Pizza. Now, this is a really exciting story of how Netprofiler have boosted New York Pizza's advertising and achieved really impressive results using Channable's tool. Following the use case presentation, we will have a Q&A session, so please do prepare your questions as we go along. We will get to them at the end of the session. You do also have the opportunity to upvote questions that other audience members have asked. So if you keep an eye on the chat and see a question that you are also very curious about, be sure to upvote it, and we'll get to the most popular questions at the end of the session. Now, before we actually dive into the session itself and the use case itself, I do want to take this time just to promote, let's say, one of our latest releases from Channable's side. We have recently launched a new report called The State of E-commerce for Digital Marketing Agencies. Now, as e-commerce continues to evolve, understanding and leveraging the right channels for your brand is vital. With the insights, you are better equipped to make informed strategic decisions for your business. Now, this report that we've released is packed with valuable data and insights that can help you navigate the complex landscape of e-commerce. Amongst other things, we will discuss the importance of centralized campaigns and first-party data collection for identifying top-performing campaigns and streamlining performance. We also touch upon strategic choices in selecting marketing channels. We look at the role that FeedManagement platforms play in optimizing your campaigns and data collection. And we provide some very practical advice to help you navigate the upcoming Q4 season. I know it's only Q2, but it always feels like Q4 is right around the corner. So there are some also really valuable insights regarding Q4 in this report to help you avoid that end of year stress, say. Once the webinar is over today, keep an eye on your inbox, on your email inbox. The report will be landing in there, as well as a recording of today's session, so you can dive into that at your own pace. Make sure to scroll back and forth a bit, catch on those moments that you just missed. I think it'll be very valuable. Now, we as Channable are privileged to work with exceptional agencies like Netprofiler, one of our gold partners, who are continuously innovating, discovering new strategies and tactics to push the boundaries of e-commerce marketing and automation. So, Paul, I hope I haven't oversold it now with that fancy introduction, but without further ado, I would like to hand over the virtual mic to Paul. And as he presents, please do remember to engage with us, ask your questions, and make the most of this learning opportunity. Paul, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Thomas. Thanks for the introduction. Today we're going to talk about a cool case we've done with Channable, of course, for our client New York Pizza. But first, let me introduce myself a bit, although Thomas has already said most of it. But I'm Paul de Graaf, head of FeedManagement at Netprofiler. And Netprofiler, you might be familiar with it. It's one of the larger companies, online marketing agencies in the Netherlands, and we're from Amsterdam. And we've been a gold partner of Channable for a few years now. And we were lucky enough to win the most recent Channable Use Case of the Year award. And that's why we were invited to present here. So that's why I'm here. First, let me talk to you a bit about how we approach feed management at Netprofiler. This was our old approach, and I think this still applies to many other agencies where feed management is like a bit of a part of a channel. So each channel has its own feed management specialists, or the specialists per channel also do the feed management for their own channel. And this, of course, makes it you have to repeat lots of rules you're setting up, importing feeds, etc. And we've run into multiple issues with this setup. So we decided to change our setup to this. So this is our new approach. What we do now is, as Netprofiler, we see feed management as a separate discipline, where we have feed management specialists that help the SEA consultants, marketplace consultants, and the social media consultants with setting up a cool feed management strategy, making sure that they get the most out of their feeds and, of course, out of their campaigns. And in this role, we often use, or mostly use, Channable as our feed management tool. For the people who are not very familiar with how Channable works, it's pretty simple. You have an import side with which you can import all sorts of data from all sorts of platforms into the tool. Then you can use Channable to enrich the data, and you can use all sorts of rules to do so. And after you've done that, you get a certain output, and you can export that to all sorts of channels. So either through API or custom CSVs or XML. So the possibilities are almost endless, and that's why we can do all sorts of cool stuff with this tool. So, for instance, also for our client New York Pizza, for anyone who's not from the Netherlands, you might not be familiar with New York Pizza, but it's a larger pizza delivery brand in the Netherlands. They have about 250 stores in the Netherlands, and all those stores use monthly promotions. These can differ from second pizza for free or 2 pizzas for $14.99, those sort of actions. And all these stores have their own budget per store, which differs per month depending on their revenue and what the franchisees want to top it up with. So we had a few challenges at New York Pizza they wanted to conquer. So first of all, we have the franchisers, and they can pick one of 6 different 10 or 30-day promotions each month, so a different action each month. And then all those 250 stores want to locally promote those actions through Google Search, Facebook, and Instagram. The budgets, as I said, they differ per store, per month, and they have to be distributed across all these channels, making sure we get the most out of the channels. So our first goal was to set up a local online advertising strategy aligned with the current promotions of the nearest store. So we got to work. We started working with Channable, of course, and we got our first initial setup. It looked a bit like this. We had a few imports, spreadsheets. We had an import that contained all the store information, the budgets per month. So we had to create a separate spreadsheet per month. And then we had a few Channable projects, one to calculate the budget pacing each month, one to set up the campaigns for search, and one to upload the ad customizers. And then we still had a list of monthly to-dos, which consisted of, first of all, recalculate this month's budgets per store per channel. Then we would have to adjust the ad copy, the start and end dates, etc., in the Channable rules. And we had to manually set up the campaigns in Facebook and Instagram. And lastly, we had to track the spend per campaign and shift budgets where needed. So we had a working setup. So far, so good, right? Right? Well, not really. This is my colleague Ismail, and he spent a lot of time making all sorts of adjustments, adjusting the ad copy, shifting budgets, filling reports, etc., etc. And this took a lot of time. So even though the setup was partially automated through Channable, we were still spending a lot of hours on stuff that was repetitive and boring. And then we have our contact person at New York Pizza, which in this case is DALI generated Linda. And we would still receive manual requests like, could you add an extra 50 euros of budget per store? Could you do an A/B test with store ratings in Facebook? Can we change the promotion A to promotion B for store 101? And by the way, we have 2 new stores this month, so could you set up the campaigns for those as well? Right. So to conclude, we had a lot of time spent on recurring tasks. We had a pretty complicated setup with many spreadsheets that had to be adjusted each month and added, and the rules had to be changed as well. So this resulted in a very complex setup with multiple Channable projects, and manually setting up the campaigns each month for all those channels was pretty time consuming, repetitive, and boring. So what I thought, we have to go back to the drawing board. So now, besides the first goal, we added 2 new goals. We wanted to automatically generate dynamic ads for Google Ads, Facebook, and Instagram through Channable. And we wanted to automate the daily budget recalculation and distribution across all channels as well. So that was a nice challenge we had ahead. And then we had to go ahead with the new LSM approach, so the local store marketing approach, which kind of looked like this. We still had to collect all sorts of data to set up Channable and to set up the feed. So to provide Channable with a well-structured feed, we have to break the data into separate parts. First of all, we still had the stores. We needed to know what is the store code, what is the store name, and what is their service area, which looked a bit like this. Then we had our promotions, which changed each month, but they had a store code. We need to know which store was doing which promotion. We had a promotion ID, and we have a budget per store per promotion, so per month. And as third, we have our promotion details. So we needed to know about these 6 different promotions. What was their promotion ID? Then what were the start and end dates? Which banner parameter do we need to use for our landing page? And what was the ad copy we wanted to use in search and social, which looked like this, for instance. So now we had this data all in separate spreadsheets. We had to put it all together into one cool tool called Channable. And that's where it looked like this. So we would just have to set up separate imports, make sure those that data would get into Channable. And that consisted of a few steps. So to combine this data and make sure we get one database with all the data combined, we had to import the promotions first. Then we would add the store data by combining that data with the store code variable. Then we can add the promotion details by combining the promotion ID. And then we would have something that looks like this. So it's a setup containing all info about the stores, all info about the promotions, and the budgets. And with this information, we could get to work. So in Channable, we had to process the data using rules. For those of you who are not familiar with rules, rules are the one thing in Channable you have to use, because what they do is they offer you the opportunity to change any variable into a different variable, or combine data, or calculate data, or use start and end dates in date rules. You can do all sorts of things with those, and that's what makes Channable such a cool tool, because if you have cool input, you can do all sorts of calculation and adjustments, and you will get nice output as well. So first, what we have to do is determine if the promotion is currently active. We add the banner parameter to our link using the date function in Channable, which looks like this. So it's pretty easy. If the start date is before tomorrow and the end date is on or after today, the action is currently valid. So we can just combine link, add a banner parameter, and then, for instance, the input would look like this and the output would look like that. So that's all what we need for this. But then, of course, we also needed to adjust our ad copy. So first we create a few default headlines, which might look like this. So our ad head 1 contains keyword insertion and the store name, which is a dynamic value containing the name of the store, of course. And in case that name is longer than 30 characters, we have to change it a little bit, and we would change or substitute New York Pizza with NYP to make sure it fits, and that would fit in all cases. So that's our first bit of dynamic headline. But then, of course, we also wanted to show our promotion for that one. So that's why we have a dynamic headline 2, which also only applies if the promotion is currently active. So the start date is for tomorrow, end date is on or after today. Then we would take ad head 2 and just copy over the value from our promotion spreadsheet, so the promotion headline. And if the promotion is currently not active, we would just have a default backup headline we would use. So when we have that, we also need some keywords, of course. We have all sorts of keywords, but they look like this. So either pizza, bestellen, ordering pizza, plus the place. And we would make these combinations for all these 250 stores we have. So those are a lot of keywords. And they might look like this. So if you look for pizza bestellen somewhere in the Netherlands, there's a large chance you will see one of these ads. And what we then have to do is put it all together. So Channable has these ad templates where you can use all sorts of static text, or you can use variables. And in this case, we only use variables because that has a few advantages. First of all, we can control all the ad copy within the rules or within the master rules, which is really handy. If you want to change your headline 10 to something else, you don't have to go through all the ad group generators. You can just adjust it in one rule, and it will apply to all ad group generators then. Secondly, you see a warning over here, which warns that the values are too long, but that's because we use keyword insertion in a static way. Which is not really how the tool was intended, but we can just ignore this warning and it will push the ad to Google Ads anyways. And if ads accept it, it will still be valid and active. So we can ignore this. And on the right side here, normally you would have backup templates available. You can use those to make sure that if headlines are too long, for instance, you have a backup set ready to make sure that if the first ad isn't approved, or isn't accepted by Google Ads, Channable will push a second backup template that should get improved if it's shorter, of course. But in this case, we don't need it because we have rules in place that will check if any values are too long or invalid. We would just replace them in the rules. So we don't have to make any backups over here. So that makes it really easy as well to copy a ad group generator and change a few things because the templates all look the same. So this is the general part. And then when we generate the campaigns, this is what it turns out. We get a lot of campaigns, even more ad groups, and of course, even more ads and keywords, all done automatically, which is pretty cool. But as I also mentioned, we also wanted to have our ads automatically active or generated on Facebook and Instagram. And that's where Smartly EO comes in, because this tool connects with the Facebook API, and we only have to supply a CSV containing all the information. So that's where we use Channable for. We create the CSV that contains the campaign, budgets, ad copy, start and end date, etc. Just push the CSV. Smartly will upload it twice a day, and it will create all the ads and adjust them accordingly. And it can also adjust all the budgets when needed. But we'll get into that in a few minutes. So this is the first setup. And what we now have is 17,500 ads automatically generated each month with only the use of Google spreadsheets, Channable, and Smartly. And this results in localized ads for all those 250 stores. And these ads look something like this. So on Google search or on Instagram, you might see any of these two ads if you look for pizza or if it's somewhere around dinner time. So the second goal we had, automatically generated dynamic ads for Google Ads, Facebook, and Instagram. We can now tick that off because that was done. Then there were still a few catches with this setup. We were wondering how to cover all areas because not all zip codes or postal codes in the Netherlands are covered by our stores. So we needed a catch-all campaign. And this turned out to be pretty simple with this setup. All we had to do was just add a dummy store called New York Pizza Netherlands, which has store code 1. Then we would have to set up a few extra rules in Channable to overrule link, keywords, and ad copy only for this store code. But then the same LSM generators we have for the other campaigns would just generate this campaign as well. And then in Google Ads, you would have to use country or provinces as targeting, use a higher target setting, and set a custom budget to make sure that the other campaigns are prioritized. And then this is only used as a catch-all. And that's it. So that's done. So that was actually simpler than we thought at first. And then if you're wondering how scalable is this setup, well, if New York Pizza wants to add a new store, the process is pretty simple. They just have to add one more row with store data. They would have to choose a promotion, of course, for that store. They have to determine its budget. And then we just run the Channable generators and everything is done automatically. So that's also pretty easy. Pretty cool. So that's the first part. That's the local store marketing setup. This is quite or a bit simplified version, but this is actually the only thing you really need to have a working setup. And from there on, you can add all extra sorts of features, extra ad copy, etc. But then the might be even cooler part is the budget automation. This might also apply to people who don't have a local store marketing setup, because what this does is, even though Channable is not meant as a bid management or budget management tool, we can still use it as so by using spreadsheets and all the functions we have available in Channable. So how do we do this? Well, again, of course, we need input. And in this case, it consists of historical data. So the search costs per campaign, per store we have up till now. And the Facebook cost, of course. And then we have some predictive data. We have the preferred budget per channel, per campaign, per store. And in Facebook, we measure the frequency or the predicted frequency for either 10-day or 30-day campaign. But I'll get into that just a bit. So what we use to get all the data is Funnel. You could use other tools like Supermetrics or custom API scripts, etc. But we use Funnel to get all the Google Ads and Facebook data into Channable. It would just generate a spreadsheet which we can import them. And we use the Google Sheets Google Ads add-on to import the ads data as well. And you would also get the impression shares, etc. So performance data. And then we use a forecast formula in Google Sheets to predict what the Facebook frequency is going to be after 10 days or after 30 days, because we're steering to a certain frequency by the end of the period. And of course, if the period is smaller, we can push more budget in a few days than if the period is longer. We have to be a little bit more careful. And for Google Ads, we use a script, the recommended budget script. I think it's a script by Optimizer, but you can find several of these. And what these do is they would just export the by Google recommended budget per campaign, and we would use this as the recommended budget. So what we do then is, if we have the data, we upload it all to Channable, and then we can calculate the store budget we have left this month. And what the preferred budgets are per channel, per store. So what it looks like is something like this. So if we have the preferred budget, which is a daily budget, we would have to calculate what the total budget for this month would be like. So we take that search budget preferred, we multiply it with the days we have left for this promotion. And then we just add the cost we have had up until now. And that together is the preferred budget for our search one layer. And we do this for all search campaign layers we have per store, of course, the display, the discovery campaigns, and for Facebook. And then when we've done that, we can add those all up, and then we will know if the budget we have available for this store is more or less than the budget we have or we would prefer for this store. If the store budget left is greater or equal to the store budget preferred, it's quite easy. We can just give all these campaigns the budget that they want. So we will take search one budget and we copy the value over. But if it turns out that the store budget we have left is less than the store budget that is preferred for this for this store for this month, then we would use a multiplier and use the store budget left divided by store budget preferred, and then just calculate the Facebook budget preferred, for instance, by multiplying it with the multiplier. And we can also tweak that multiplier a bit to give more importance to the branded campaigns, for instance. There's also a rule in place that if we have too low budget to be active on all channels, we would only be active on search, for instance. So you can use all sorts of scenarios to determine where the budget goes if the budget isn't sufficient for the preferred budget. And when we've done that, we have all the calculations in place. There are only a few things we have to do. First, we create a CSV file, so CSV feed, with only these 4 fields: action, which is always edit, the account, the customer ID, so the Google Ads account ID, and then we need the campaign and the new budget. So that's quite easy. And then what we do is we use which looks like this, we use a bulk upload in Google Ads, and we can just use it to upload the budgets twice a day, and then Google Ads will do the rest for us. So even though Channable doesn't support this function, we can still do it with a small detour, and it's working perfectly. And then for Facebook, we can use Smartly. As I said, we have budget as a field there, so if there are any changes in the budget, they will get pushed to Smartly through Channable, and it will be updated also twice a day. So in this way, what we do, we have over 1.2 million budget recalculations automated yearly, which of course saves us a lot of time because these recalculations have to be done by hand normally. Then of course we wouldn't do them twice a day, but at least once a week, which was still a lot of work. And with this process, we now also have automated daily budget recalculation and distribution across all channels, which is really nice. Now we can just sit back and look at our final results, because what did we achieve? We now have a setup that only has one spreadsheet with 3 tabs though. We import that into Channable, where we have one project with the dynamic ad copy, of course, automated dynamic ad copy. And we have the budget recalculations also automated. And now our monthly to-dos consist of only a few things. Reminding New York Pizza to fill in the spreadsheet if they have any new promotions or stores. That's actually it. And then everything will all come together in Channable. It will be regenerated and adjusted accordingly. And then we can focus on cooler stuff. So on the real results. So what we did with this new setup, we saved 55% of our time per month. And with this time saved, we were able to set up 5 times more experiments. And those experiments gained us a 16% increase in revenue, which of course are pretty nice results. And these are setting up experiments is normally a lot more fun than doing the same recurring tasks over and over. So our colleagues are also happier with the setup. And Linda, our client, is also very happy. So that's one of the most important things, of course. So I think that kind of concludes what we've done for New York Pizza. And all of it was, we were able to do it with the help of a cool tool called Channable, of course. So now, I have a question for you. If you would like to discuss your Channable LSM, doesn't have to be a local store marketing setup, but whatever Channable setup, we have the opportunity to join our raffle. I think we will send the link in the chat in a minute, and you will also get an email with a link to this form as well. And what we would then do is we will pick 3 submissions, and we will schedule a free session with them to discuss their Channable challenges and see if we can build something as cool as this as well. So that's about it, I think. Let's go to a Q&A.
Amazing. That's really, really cool. Thank you so much for sharing this. This case, Paul. I think I don't think I'll offend anyone of the participants in the audience here by calling them marketing nerds, and I think probably they very much appreciate the actual screenshots from the tool and the very concrete advice that you gave as to how to solve certain solutions. I mean, God knows I've been in several of these webinars in the past where you come out at the end thinking those were just vague concepts. I don't think anyone can say that about today's session. So first of all, really a really big thanks for that. Now, as Paul just mentioned, yes, we are now moving on to the Q&A part of today's session. So if you do have any questions out there, please do shoot them in the chat right now, and we will get to those in just a moment. But before we actually get to the audience Q&A, Paul, I've got a couple of questions for you myself, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because this is, of course, a great example of New York Pizza and how this has worked for them. If another advertiser is interested in implementing like this kind of strategy or a similar strategy, what would be your recommendation to kind of kickstart this process? What would be the best start?
Mm-hmm. I think looking first at what kind of data you have available and what would you like to do with that data. So, for instance, in the case of New York Pizza, they had these monthly promotions, which was the most important part to automate. And then if you have all that data, you would have to look at how to combine it to make sure that you have one database that contains everything you need to just automate everything. And that's where Channable, of course, comes in place. So if you were to set up a similar setup for any client, I think you would just have to start with the minimum. So just one headline, start and end date, and one budget, like a total budget for all stores. And then from there on, you can build whatever you want or adjust or make the setup larger. Because I think that's something we ran into that in the first place, we wanted too much of this setup. And we even made you could see the first setup was quite complex and it still required a lot of manual tasks. So we then went back to the drawing, to the drawing board, and we have to think of what are the recurring tasks that we can and should automate, and what are the things that we want or can avoid to do manually. And then from there on, we started with a new approach, a completely new setup that was actually simpler than the old one and worked better. So I think that's the most important part, to think first what you want to set up and then build from there on.
Okay, that makes a lot. So kind of start simple, start basic, and scale from there.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense, and I can imagine this is probably also very valuable advice for the audience. Now, of course, you've told us all about this this fantastic story with New York Pizza and how amazing everything is going. What kind of big hurdles or challenges did you face when you were going through this whole setup? If you had to highlight a couple.
I think one of the most annoying things was we finally had a setup working, which still worked with several spreadsheets, and those spreadsheets were using a import data function, which is a really cool function to import data from other spreadsheets. And it was all working well. And then all of a sudden, Google changed something or something happened, and all of these functions started breaking down. And then it turns out that if one function breaks down, the complete setup breaks down. And that caused us to have, of course, this always happens on a Friday afternoon. And then it was, all the ads were paused during the complete weekend. So that was certainly something we then have to think of a way to bypass the import data functions, which luckily we were able to, but that was certainly something that was unexpected. it was not working as intended. And that's something which is crucial for feed management setup, because you don't have to, you don't want to be spending a lot of time looking at your setup to make sure it's still working, because it's just supposed to work.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. So if there is any let's say any doubt as to how can you actually solve that, people should just come to you, and you can you can help them because you have the experience with that now. Yeah, perfect. I've put you on the spot. Brilliant. One last question from my side, and then I think I'll jump to the audience question. Could you elaborate a little bit on, say, how you've been able to apply the lessons you've learned from this case, from the New York Pizza case, to other clients? Because of course, New York Pizza is not your only client. So how have the learnings, been applied to other clients?
I think it goes two ways. One is for our other local store marketing clients. We can use a similar setup, and we're just starting easy. That's the most important lesson. Start with the easy setup that works, and then just build from there. So that's what we're currently doing for another client as well. And for all other clients in general, I think it's really important to use the description field in Channable as well, because I was the one building the setup, but I have to work with a lot of colleagues that are also working on New York Pizza. And whenever I'm on a holiday or not in the office, they should also be able to understand what rules are doing and be able to make any fixes or adjustments where needed. So just really document whatever a rule does in the description field to make sure that your colleagues also understand what it does.
Gotcha.
I think that's also a lesson we've learned the hard way.
Probably also on a Friday afternoon, right? When everyone,
Yeah, probably.
Amazing.
Or my first day of holiday.
Yeah, it's always at the worst possible times. I'm going to turn to the chat, because I do see that a question has come through here from Fabian. They ask, they say, I noticed you used a static value in the ad template for headline 2. Did you consider using an ad customizer field, since headline 2 contains ad copy that changes per promotion?
Yeah, this is what we had in the initial setup. But the downside of this is that we would just have one ad that is active like all year long, or even longer, and it was a little harder to determine what the results per promotion were, because we then had to recalculate per store which days was the promotion active, when did we have the default action, and when did we have the new action active. And with this setup, so a bit of an old-fashioned setup, we would just have new ads per promotion, or it would be reactivate the default ad, and we could easily just compare the results of those three.
Right, so it almost became too variable in a way.
With
the old fat. Okay, right, that makes sense.
Yeah, I think the using the ad customizer, so a pink field, is really helpful if you have like things that are really dynamic. So maybe pricing that would change during a promotion from day to day, or Black Friday, for instance, or any other more timely variables. Compared to this, where it's a little bit more static, and we would just be able to easily compare the results of the different promotions.
Understood. Awesome. Cool. If there are any more questions out there, please again just shoot them in the chat, and we will take them. One last question from my side, Paul. Of course, I say of course, you're probably not done, right? So do you feel that you have peaked and have reached everything from New York Pizza's advertising that you ever could, or is there more room to improve?
We're still working on improvement, because with this feed management setup, we have like a base we can use for all sorts of channels. So what we're currently testing is using a different tool called Cape to also automate our display ad copy. And we are also testing with setting up our marketing automation, or connect the marketing automation with these promotion spreadsheets through Channable. And we're also working on expanding this setup to Germany as well. So there are definitely things we can still do for New York Pizza in this case.
Fantastic.
And hopefully we'll learn new things and set up cool stuff where you can win new awards with.
That's always the aim, right? Just keep bringing in the awards. Awesome. I do not see any more questions coming through in the chat. Of course, if there are still some, please shoot them our way and we'll take them. Otherwise, we actually have one more question, which is for everybody who's currently still in the audience, more related to the upcoming webinars. Because we would like to gain some insights into your own marketplace and retail media strategy. So if, again, the technology works, a poll should be popping up on your screen as we speak. Please let us know, how do you expect your spend on retail media to change in this next year? And your insights from this poll will help us a lot in putting together our next webinar, which I can already reveal will be with another of our partner agencies at Channable, Fingerspits. So that's coming up in just a couple of weeks. So I'm hoping that everybody has submitted their answers into that poll. Again, next up in the agency stories, we have a really cool case that will hopefully make you rethink the way you approach your marketing strategies. We're going to be diving quite deep into a very compelling case study involving Cortina and Fingerspits, as already revealed, who have teamed up to solve the brand bidding puzzle, which is one of the most challenging riddles in digital marketing. Now, Fingerspits have used a groundbreaking approach to slash Cortina's annual branded ad spend by 64%, so a ridiculous number. And they've managed to do so while simultaneously boosting the organic traffic and maintaining the overall branded traffic. It sounds impossible, but I promise you they've cracked the code and they're going to share exactly how they do that in the next webinar. So if you have ever found yourself pondering on whether to bid on brand terms, and if so, how to do it intelligently without breaking the bank, then this is a session you won't want to miss. We are going to be unveiling the innovative steps that Fingerspits have adopted, from strategic data utilization, launching dynamic campaigns, to smart bid adjustments based on real-time data. So this is going to be a really cool session in a couple of weeks. In the email, which is going to come through to you with the recording of this session, there will also be the link to sign up for the next session, which I strongly recommend to do. Now, if you found value in today's webinar, which of course I hope you did, then we would like to extend an invitation for you to explore Channable further. Visit our website, check out the resources, and see for yourself how Channable could help you streamline your marketing processes, just as it has done for New York Pizza, with the great help, of course, of Netprofiler. Let's not leave them out. And lastly, of course, we encourage you to share the lessons that you've learned today with your team, with your network. So feel free to share the link from today's webinar recording to whoever you think it could be relevant for. And that essentially concludes our in-depth look at the New York Pizza and Netprofiler use case. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. Really hope you got something from it, and that the strategies and tactics will give you some new perspective into managing your own campaigns. Of course, huge thanks to Paul from Netprofiler. Really appreciate that you joined us for this one. I think everyone really gained something from this webinar based on all the reactions that are flying around all over the screen. So that's always fun. I am pretty sure I've never used the word pizza more in a 45-minute slot. So I think I know what I'm having for my dinner tonight. And with that, we will round up the session. Thank you guys so much for joining, and we'll see you for the next one.